Hi, I'm Maureen O'Brien. This is the Sirens of Audio.
Please leave a review for us on Apple Podcasts. And please like, share, subscribe and comment on our YouTube videos. Then you shall be like us. G'day, audiophiles. This is the Sirens of Audio, the show that explores the universe of Doctor Who in the audio medium. I'm Dwayne.
And I'm Philip. G'day, Dwayne. G'day, audiophiles.
G'day, Philip. How are you?
I am well, thank you. Been a bit warm here. We've been having a few 40-degree days in Sydney. So
I heard that. I heard that. I'm coming to you from Albany in Western Australia. So if there are any listeners in Western Australia, do let me know. In Albany, you can wave as I go past. Yeah.
Everyone's going to look up on a map where West Australia even is, let alone Albany.
It's the place that was locked off and no one could get into a few years ago.
Okay.
All right. Today is our final full podcast episode for the year. We've got one bonus episode because we're going to come back on to talk about the Church on Ruby Road. Shooty Gatwa's first episode. But this will be our first one. We're going to have a bit of a rest, Philip. I think we've earned it.
I think so too.
How about, first of all, we just recap the events that are coming up in February? Should we do that first?
That would be good. So for those who haven't heard yet, for those of you in Australia, we have Wendy Padbury coming to confirm Sydney and Melbourne. I'm actually discussing and trying to work out whether we can get her to Brisbane as well. But I'm not talking to me in Brisbane. I'm still trying to get contact with the right person. But yes, Sydney on the 10th of February. And then on the 18th of February in Melbourne, there'll be a VIP dinner the night before. So we've got Wendy Padbury. We've also got her daughter, Charlie Hayes, coming as well, who's done a number of Big Finish stories, some really great ones. She's had some great roles.
She has.
Sometimes working with her mum, often not. So we'll also have a bit of a chat with her while she's out as well.
All right. On today's episode, we are going to be talking about all 7 episodes that have been released thus far. There's a little one to come in 12 months' time of Once and Future, the Big Finish 60th anniversary series. And we're going to go through, we're not going to spend too long on each one, but we're going to give a brief recap of each story and just give our basic thoughts on those. But before we do, Philip, do you know what?
No, what, Dwayne?
We have to jump down the rabbit hole for the last time in 2023. Well, come with me, Philip. Let's go.
Yeah, here we go.
Thanks for coming down the rabbit hole with me again, Philip. This is going to be a nice, easy one. We're just going to look back over the podcast for the last year and look through some of the highlights. And I just want to get your thoughts and feedback on what your memories are and standout moments from those years. So if we go back to January, we had some awesome guests in January. The first guest of the year was Michael Troughton. Then we had Jeffrey Beavers. Then we had Gary Russell joining us for a Randomoids episode. Standout moments from January for you? Not all of them, I suppose.
That's not too shoddy a start of the year, was it?
It's a great start to the year. Yeah.
It was great talking with Michael Troughton and getting a few stories about his dad and just hearing about his career and what he's doing. So that I really enjoyed. But for me, I mean, the highlight has to be Jeffrey Beavers. What a fascinating life. What a lovely, lovely man. And just,
he's such a gentleman. Such a gentleman.
It was just glorious. So just being able to sit and chat with him, that was great. And Gary, we've had Gary lots of times this year because Gary's, friend of our podcast and always full of great stories. But yeah, for January, I guess Jeffrey was just amazing. You?
Absolutely. Oh, well, it was thrilling to talk to Michael Troughton as well because I really sort of fell in love with Michael's voice. when I listened to the biography of his dad that he narrated. So I really enjoyed talking to him, and I predicted before it was announced that he should be playing the Doctor. And of course, I think someone must have listened to me at Big Finish.
And that must only be the 30th time you said that.
That's it. All right, let's move to February. We had Kate Orman join us for the first time. We had a special on Stephen Greif where we played some cut footage from our interview with him, because we were doing a sort of a memorial for him. We also had Jan Chappell and Sally Navette come back one to give us some extra material. We also spoke to Michael Stevens, commissioning editor for BBC Books, and Simon Guria was on this podcast for the first time, and he hasn't been on since. We've got to do something about that in 2024, Philip. He was talking about one of our Randomoid episodes as well. So what are your thoughts on February? I think Kate Orman was a big one.
Kate was amazing to talk with, and just it was good to see her with so much life and so many stories to tell. Actually, the huge one that got lots and lots of listens to was the Target. I was going to say Target publisher, but the BBC Books.
Michael Stevens.
Stevens, like
lots
people,
of interest there.
Lots of interest in that one. I guess for me, we had such an amazing time with Stephen Greif. Was it last year? And so
I think it was 2 years ago.
2 years ago. His passing just seemed like a real shock because he'd been so full of life. We'd had such an amazing time with him. So that was just sad. I mean, and so it was lovely to catch up with Sally and Jan. And once again, there's a bit more emotion that we cut stuff that we didn't put in. But that was just a special time as well, just being able to share. And Stephen Greif's sons got in contact with us just to thank us for the episode and for things that they learned about their father. And that was just lovely too, just to know that we touched his family's life as well, which was just lovely.
Excellent. All right, let's move on to March. This was an interesting month. We had Dan Starkey for week one. Then we had John Levine, and we had Christopher Benjamin. Who else did we have? We had John Dorney back on too for another Randomoids. But those three big guests, what are your standouts for that one? I know for me it was probably John Levine. It was one of the most interesting interviews we've ever done, I think.
Yes.
Not only was there technical issues that we kept dealing with, and I think we dealt with them reasonably well considering what those issues were, but John, he was a fascinating character.
Yes, that's a good way to put it. No, I was John will always be something that I will never forget. I mean, Dan Starkey, I've been looking forward to talking to Dan for such a long time. He's had such a major input into modern Who. And so just to talk to him was just a joy as well. But Christopher Benjamin too, he has been, since I was little, Mr. Jago, a huge impact. And just chatting with him and yarning with him about life and history. Stephen Greif was taking far too soon. Some of the other actors are getting on, and just being able to spend some time with them while they're still here and get some stories. So I hadn't looked at what we've done this year, and now you're reading them out. I'm just being blown away by those first 3 months. Like, that's just amazing who we've talked to. I can't believe it. Wow.
Yes. Well, April was a quiet month. We didn't do too many full episodes because it was a rather busy month. It was our first event. Janet Fielding was over, and
right.
We had events for Janet set up in Sydney, Hobart, and Brisbane. So we released 2 episodes, because one of them was Janet Fielding Debrief, where we were talking about Janet's events. But the other one was episode 150, our 150th episode, where we had a sit down face-to-face in person with Rove McManus, who is a huge name here in Australia.
Yeah. So, and he obviously done a Big Finish. I don't think, probably around the rest of the world, people may not know. In America, they probably do, actually. He had a show over there. I guess for us, it's interesting with the giggle last week, and talk about the Logie Bear, Logie Bear, who invented television. We have in Australia a awards night for television and film called the Logies, named after Logie Baird. And so it was interesting.
It's a bit like the Emmys, in the US as well?
Oh, it's like the Emmys, but tackier. I'm pretty sure the Emmys are all industry awards, and so people actually know what they're talking about. Award the best people. With our Logies, half of our Logies are popularity awards, and so people, it used to be you should fill out forms in a magazine like the Radio Times, called TV Week. But people used to rig that because they used to buy multiple, hundreds of TV weeks and rig the forms. Now it's all done online, and people still rig that. So it's a, but we love it. I mean, the Logies are ours, but it was just, but Roving McManus won the Gold Logie, which is the highest award you can win, and so that usually goes to particularly good actors or presenters. And for years, Roving McManus had some of the best TV shows, best entertainment shows, interviewing people, and he was always amazing. And yeah, spending time with him in Tasmania was just a joy, and having him on our program was great. In terms of as an Aussie, we don't get to do many Aussies, but it was great to have him. But yeah,
And he had appeared in a Big Finish as well, so it was good to be able to talk to him about that.
That's right. But I mean, Janet Fielding that month was just that was the highlight of the joy, and doing things like going to the Blue Mountains, but we couldn't see them because of the mist. Going up Mount Wellington in Tasmania, couldn't see them because of the mist. My wife and I took Janet out to a play. The actor broke his ankle in the first half of the play, so the play was cancelled, so we didn't get to see the second half. Everywhere we took her, it was just a disaster. She's just jinxed, that lady. She's just jinxed.
Imagine Janet and Katie Manning out together.
Oh, terrifying! Don't no. Too scary.
Okay, so May was a little quieter as well because we had a random words to catch up on, but we did, and we showed some footage from the Brisbane event, Jason Hay Gallery, which was interesting to show. But we did
Sophie.
We did have Sophie that month, so that was busy as well. But we had a big full sort of Big Finish career interview with Helen Goldwyn in May, which was really good too, and Max Kashevsky. It was nice to be able to talk to a new writer as well. So I always find those interviews fascinating, but it was good to have a proper sit-down chat with Helen as well.
Helen is just astounding. I find her so talented. It blows me away that she isn't a huge star, because she should have been. It's the luck of the draw sometimes. Sometimes people get picked up and other times people don't. Helen has so much talent and still continues to just shine. And we'll be talking about her quite a bit today, actually, because she's directed a lot of these episodes.
Yes, exactly. So in June, we had an interesting interview. We had a chat with Elizabeth Morton, Peter Davison's wife, about a book that she was writing, plus a few other Doctor Who-y type things. We had Tim Bentinck, who is a regular guest actor for Big Finish and very, very famous for his long-term role in the radio series The Archers, which he's still doing. Who else do we have? That were the two biggies for that month. So yeah, I found Elizabeth Morton's was really fascinating, and she was in the Tripod, so I was very excited to talk to someone from the Tripod.
I know you enjoyed that one, but yeah, she was lovely and charming indeed.
Yeah, she was. And Tim was great too, because fellow Tasmanian, born in Tasmania. So a very interesting story. July was great. We had the beautiful Beth Chalmers join us. We had Glenn McCready, and we had Lizzie Hopley join us for that month as well. So probably, they're all standouts for me because Glenn McCready was just hilarious. Beth Chalmers was fantastic. What an amazing voice. But I really enjoyed Lizzie Hopley. She was with us for the whole show, right from start to finish, and she was had a lot of really interesting, thoughtful things to say. So that was the standout for me, Lizzie, I think, for that month.
I love it when we get to talk to the writers, and Lizzie has been producing such amazing work. It was a real joy. But yeah, I mean, Glenn and so who was the other person to say?
Beth Chalmers.
Beth. I mean, both of them have done so many roles. Beth's going to come up again tonight. Yeah, so once again, there was some great conversations there.
Okay, we're up to August, and it was great to talk to Paul Verhoeven, another Aussie, a well-known Australian actually, who wrote for the second Doctor box set, wrote a story called The Green Man. We had Johnny Morris on again. Hugh Ross from Countermeasures we had on as well. And we played some more. We devoted one episode to some of the Janet Fielding live in Sydney. So that was an interesting month as well. I think I I love talking with Paul Verhoeven. I've spoken to him a couple of times on the podcast now, and I love his enthusiasm for what he does. That just comes through in the way he speaks about what he does, the excitement in his voice. He really takes you along for the ride.
Yep, I agree. Hugh Ross for me, because I love Countermeasures, and
Mm,
I just love Hugh's voice. It's just amazing. So I
yeah.
think for me, just talking to Hugh and his career and Countermeasures was a great joy.
And now we're getting up to towards the 60th anniversary season that we began in September, but not with this one. The first one we did for September was a chat with John Dorney and Louise Jameson for the Omega Factor, which was due to be released a month or two after we spoke to them. Then we had a couple of other podcasters on that month. We had Sarah from Type 40 talking with us about the Ninth Doctor. We had Martin Havel talking to us about, or with us about Torchwood. And then we did a look back at the Paradise of Death. We were heading right back into the 60th anniversary feature by looking back at anniversary stories. And of course, the last one for that month, we had 5 episodes in September. We were doing a retrospective of the Pirates. So would I be correct in assuming that that would be your standout for the month?
Well, I was going to say having a good goss with Lou and John was probably a major standout at the start
Yep.
of the month.
Yep.
Yeah, it's been a while since I caught up with Lou, and I always love a good goss session with her. And John's is crazy, yeah. So I love time with him, and we've had a couple of times with him to see different things. But yeah, doing the Pirates retrospective, it's a favorite of mine in terms of shows, and just being able to chat with such a wide range of people about the show. So yeah, we had some really amazing interviews from all sorts of people involved in the production, behind and in front and behind the microphone. And yeah, that was a real joy being able to do that.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. October was a good one too, because we spoke with another Blake Seven person, Brian Croucher. We had Conrad Westmass coming on to talk about Kerry's and his time with Big Finish and his life in general. And we looked at the Villains trilogy. We also had Gary Russell on to talk about Zagreus. So any standouts in particular? There's a couple of big standouts for me in that month.
Whoa, just so that's amazing. I mean, Brian Croucher was fantastic. So I think of all the first 2 seasons now, we've managed to speak to all the surviving, no, just about Blake
bar
Seven,
one.
all bar one, and that's unfortunately not going to happen. So that's I guess we're very blessed and privileged to have been able to chat with all the surviving Blake Seven people. So we haven't been able to get a few more early on. And we're going to start thinking about working on season 3 and 4. Sorry, C and D for the Blake Seven purists. Why would you number things A, B, C, D? I don't know. Maybe BBC. So Brian Croucher was certainly, and it was an interesting discussion. I mean, you never quite know what you're going to get when you do these interviews, and often they take you down a different path than you expect. And Brian Croucher was certainly one that took me down a different path to everything I prepared for, which is okay. That's John Levine did the same thing. Occasionally, you just go off on some interesting tangents, and you're never quite sure if you're going to get back again. The Villains trilogy, because we spoke to all 3 writers.
Ian Kubiak. Oh, no, we didn't talk to all the writers. No, we spoke to Ian Kubiak on that one. But we had Gary Russell talking a little bit when we had him on in the following month talking about, well, we had him later talking about Zagreus, but we cut a little bit in with Gary talking about the Villains trilogy.
Right, I had in my head that we meant to speak to all the writers, each of the 3 writers for that.
You're thinking of the 1963 trilogy, I think.
Oh, yes, okay. I'm good grief. I've got no idea what we did this year.
We've done too much.
We have done too much.
We need a rest.
So what else did I for you that month, Wayne?
Well, the big standout for me was Conrad Westmass. What a joy to talk to Conrad.
He's coming back.
Such a lovely guy, and he is coming back next month in the Sontarans versus Rutans box set, which is going to be awesome. And it was a really a really popular episode too. So lots of people are interested in.
Super popular episode.
Mm,
I mean, and Conrad really, once again, it took us down a slightly different path to where I was expecting to go. And he just, because he was so open and honest, we were actually able to discuss some stuff that he's never discussed with anyone else before. And I think that was, and he was, we checked out with him afterwards and said, are you happy for this to go in? And I think because of that, his honesty and just being open, it
it's
allowed
very
us to have this,
endearing.
exactly. And just discussing things that, often don't get discussed. And that's part of what we try and do. We often try and show a different side or show a more complete side of those people come to the program rather than a very narrow view. We try and show a much broader view, and often we go in strange directions. But I'm all about just ideally just letting the guests speak, and let's see where we go.
So in November, I mentioned before I go to November that the last one for October was Gary Russell talking about Zagreus, which was fascinating to talk about.
Yes,
about such a important story to me. I think it's still my favorite anniversary story for many different reasons, but it was great to get some background from Gary on that. So moving on to November, we were well and truly into anniversary season time now. We did some episodes on our own talking about the toy maker in the Companion Chronicle Solitaire. We reviewed the Star Beast, the Big Finish adaptation of it. Then we did the 1963 trilogy, and that's where we spoke to all three authors. We had Eddie Robson, Johnny Morris, and John Dorney on for that one. And the last, I think the last main episode for November was Nick Briggs talking about The Light at the End, which I'm glad you pressed me to do it because we had done that story before on a Randomoids, and I wasn't going to do it, but you pressed me, and we got Nick to come on and join us, and that was a lovely episode.
I still think The Light at the End is the most anniversary stories you can have. So it's up there with the 3 Doctors, the 5 Doctors, and the Light at the End because of what it does. I mean, as I say, I love Zagreus. I think it's a wonderful anniversary story. I love the giggle and the specials we just had, and I think they're anniversary stories too. I think sometimes people get a bit narrow in their view about what an anniversary story should look like. I think there is a large range. But The Light at the End is just glorious with the Doctors and the companions, and they're mixing together, and even I said if it was made today, the first, second, and third Doctor would all have a much even bigger role, but they still actually play a significant role in that story. So I was so glad to listen to it again because to me it's just the perfect anniversary story. And in my head I was just ticking off all the people we've talked to. Colin Baker, Sylvester McCoy, India Fisher, Louise Jameson, Jeffrey Beavers. You work through the cast and say, you've done that. Nick Briggs, ticking them all off. John Dorney. Just to think, wow, we are just so fortunate. And as I listen now to stories like that, having spoken to the actors, spoken to the writers, it just means all the more.
So for December, we've done 2 episodes so far. This is the 3rd one for December. The first one, we look back at Bernice Summerfield, and a very important character in terms of audio, because even though she's sort of older than the audio, she's been with Big Finish for 25 years this year. So we had a look back at Love and War, the first story that she appeared in as a novel, and this was the Big Finish novel adaptation of that story. And then our last episode, Philip, maybe this is the standout episode for you for the year, I don't know, but we had India Fisher on last week, and what a joy she was to talk to. What a lovely lady.
She really is. And I don't know whether she's standout or not, but I still can't believe who we've spoken to, just being reminded this year what we've had. We've had a big year and we finished big. We started big, we finished big, and there's some big stuff to start us off next year as well. So what a joy! And I'm still just can't believe I'm here week by week chatting with some of these people and with you, of course.
And just on the Love and War episode, one thing that really made me smile, I love it when we can get our friends and fellow fans to look a little bit further into something. And I saw a tweet from someone who said, I just listened to the Audio Sirens episode and I'm now on the Big Finish website looking at all the Benny releases. And that was just a thrill. If we can, get more people turned on to these great stories, then I think that's our job done.
Yeah, I agree. And yeah, yes, I agree. What else can I say? Keep listening to audio. It's brilliant.
All right, let's jump on up out of the rabbit hole, and we're going to talk about Once and Future, all 7 episodes. The first episode that came out was released in May, so they've been monthly releases. And before we start talking about the first one, which is called Past Lives, I will read the blurb. The Time War. The Doctor has been injured and brought to a Time Lord field hospital. His body glows with energy. But this is no regeneration into a future form. Instead, the Doctor's past faces begin to appear as he flits haphazardly between incarnations. Staggering to his TARDIS, the Doctor sets out to solve the mystery of his degeneration. Who has done this to him? How and why? From the Earth to the stars, across an array of familiar times and places, he follows clues to retrace his steps, encountering old friends and enemies along the way. Tumbling through his lives, the Doctor must stop his degeneration before he loses himself completely. Settling as his 4th incarnation, the Doctor goes in search of the monk with a vague memory that he had something to do with his degeneration. On Earth, the monk is meddling, bringing Sarah Jane Smith to the future unit HQ to steal a device for an alien race. The Doctor must help Kate Stewart and Osgood foil an invasion before he can confront the monk about what he knows.
From Big Finish Productions.
No! It's wrong! It's all gone wrong!
Doctor Who, Once and Future, Past Lives.
I think it's the Doctor, sir.
Help me! We have to stop it!
I must fight it. I must resist.
Right, first things first. What's the current situation, Doctor?
Short-term memory scrambled. TARDIS bruised and reproachful. Regeneration cycle all over the place.
I say! Sarah Jane Smith! You look lost!
Oh, it's you.
Hello there!
Doctor?
Kate Lethbridge Stewart. How wonderful.
Hello. Dr. Petronella Osgood. At your service.
You might say I'm revisiting a past life.
Doctor, how far back do you go?
I'm suffering from the effects of some sort of degeneration weapon.
Finally, our time has come.
We've drawn attention to ourselves.
On the cannons, shoot that thing out of the sky.
It's coming right for us, isn't it?
Yes, at quite considerable speed.
Perhaps we should.
It's too late.
Big Finish for the love of stories.
So Past Lives by Robert Valentine. The director was Helen Goldwyn. Music and sound design by Howard Carter. Script editor was Matt Fitton. It was recorded on the 2nd of February 2021. Released May 2023. This was actually the second of all the stories to be recorded and goes back a couple of years, as you can hear. Starring Tom Baker as the Doctor, Sadie Miller as Sarah Jane Smith, Jenna Redgrave as Kate Lethbridge Stewart, Ingrid Oliver as Osgood, and Rufus Howard as the monk. Also got Dan Starkey in it as my part of the cast. And in terms of other Doctors, Colin Baker, Peter Davison, Sylvester McCoy, Stephen Noonan, Tim Treloar, and Michael Troughton all make cameos. But the main Doctor in this one is Tom Baker with Sarah Jane Smith, Kate, Osgood, and the monk.
Thank you, Philip. Now, as far as anniversary stories go, I think Once and Future really does tick the boxes. And this is not an anniversary story for fans of the TV series, new or classic. It's a combination. It's a combination of classic, new, and Big Finish. So I've seen criticism out there that this Once and Future is just like a checkbox of, it's like an extended trailer for all the different ranges that they've got. But I think that this is doing exactly what anniversaries should do, and it's bringing all those elements together. And the story is not like, as I read the blurb, the story is not that complex. The Doctor's degenerating, and he's trying to solve the mystery as to why and how and where and when, how this all came about. And each of the episodes, he's sort of looking for the next clue. So in this one, as it said, he's got a vague memory of the monk somehow being involved. Obviously, he goes back in search of the monk, but the monk has picked up Sarah Jane Smith, played by Sadie Miller. And I think in this case, the star of this one for me would be Sadie Miller. She has somehow nailed Sarah Jane like never before. This is almost a perfect performance, this one.
There's so much emotion in it because, and spoilers, everyone, please make sure you listen to this because there will be spoilers along the way.
Oh, yes. Spoilers for everything. Spoilers for everything.
Part of what makes this so charming and the emotional impact is the fact that the Fourth Doctor was not the Fourth Doctor. I think it's the Eighth Doctor who's been degenerating. And kind of say, I wonder whether they would have got away with this had they not started the productions in 2020. I don't know when Russell took over, when he had the idea of his bi-generation. But it's interesting that, before the changing of regenerations, we have these decent generations, which I think it has done something similar being done in Doctor Who magazine 30 years ago, about the same time as the Star Beast. There's a Doctor Who comic where the Doctor's going backwards through these regenerations. That's from, I don't think which Doctor. I think it might be from the Fifth Doctor backwards. Maybe it's the Fourth Doctor. But there was a similar thing done in Doctor Who magazine decades ago. But the whole idea of a degeneration where the Doctor's actually flitting, his body keeps changing backwards and forwards with his clothing being done too, which is interesting. Interesting because in the anniversary specials just on, they never mentioned why David Tennant's clothing changed with him when he regenerated from Jodie. I expected there would be some point, but it was never covered. And in this, all the characters' clothing is changing with them as well. So who knows what that is? But it was interesting that this degeneration allows for every Doctor to appear, but not at the same time. But it's beautiful how it goes on. But Tom Baker, who's playing this is his money. He comes back again. This is his main story in the range. He picks up Sarah Jane Smith on the moment, just on the same day that he's just dropped off in the Hand of Fear. And so for him, because he's the
isn't that the monk that picks her up?
Well, sorry, you're right. So she gets picked up by the monk. You're right, but they meet up again on the same day. So the Fourth Doctor's changed from the Fourth, the Fifth, the Sixth, the Seventh, the Eighth. This is during the time war.
It's actually let's spoil this completely. It's the War Doctor who's degenerating. So it's beyond the Eighth. Yeah,
beyond the Eighth. So it's the War Doctor going through all these degenerations, and so it's been hundreds of years since Sarah Jane Smith has gone, but for Sarah, it's minutes since she's just left the Doctor. And it's her coming to terms with the fact of, what do you mean you never came to see me again? Because at this point, she hasn't seen, we do know that Sarah will reconnect with the Doctor. But at this point, she's thinking that he's never bothered to come back to her, having just dropped off, and how, when we've had this relationship. So that Sadie played that so well and played that emotion so well.
Yeah. And an interesting combination, because each one of these stories has a combination of, sometimes Big Finish characters, classic characters, new series characters, all in together. And the combination of Sarah Jane with new unit under Kate Lethbridge-Stewart and Osgood is an interesting one. I think it works really nice. I always love Osgood. As I've said previously, I'm not the biggest fan of Kate Lethbridge-Stewart, but when she's there with Osgood, I think that is a good duo. They bounce off each other very well. And in combination with the monk, Rufus Hound's monk has been in many, many stories for Big Finish now. And originally the monk was played by Graham Garden, but then maybe he's too old to do it now. I don't know. Maybe he's retired. But Rufus Hound has come in, and he's like the perfect combination of like Peter Butterworth and Graham Garden. You put those two together, it's like you get Rufus Hound. And I think that works really well too.
I recently watched again The Girl Who Waited, the Peter Capaldi story, which Rufus Hound is in. So it was interesting seeing Rufus Hound acting live. But as you say, I think this is such a great anniversary because it's a combination of original TV series, Tom Baker. It's got the recast Sarah Jane Smith and The Monk by Big Finish. And it's got new series in terms of Kate and Osgood. And so just having the total mix of those different areas and scenarios, it's a clever show. And as I said, there's not a lot in it because, I mean, the main point I think this story is just trying to make is that the Doctor knows the monk is present, except the monk works out it's a future monk. And so he's now warned in terms of, when this happens, this is what I need to tell you. And so it's sort of, the monk knows what has to happen in the future because the earlier doctors told him what's going on.
That's right. Yeah. So the clue at the end of this one that sort of ties this to the next story is the monk suggests to the doctor that he go and find someone with the same genetic makeup. And so we move on to the next story. So shall I read the blurb for that?
Sounds great.
The next one's called The Artist at the End of Time. Suffering the effects of degeneration, the Doctor heads towards the end of the universe in search of answers. Instead, he finds his daughter, Jenny, and an artist whose works appear to mark the end of every world they touch. The Doctor rises into his fifth form to join forces with Jenny and the curator to solve the mystery of the final gallery and the art it has collected.
Gathered in this gallery are the final artworks produced by the worlds now sadly silenced by time.
From Big Finish Productions, Doctor Who, Once and Future, The Artist at the End of Time.
You wouldn't happen to have any Time Lord DNA in this gallery, would you?
You. Show me stuff.
Something is wrong.
What are you doing at this end of time?
About to stop a time war. You?
Well, actually, I came here to find myself.
This universe is dying.
He finished his painting just as the world ended.
Really?
Killing worlds as he makes art.
How will you face your death?
The last creations in the universe.
A diamond among the stars.
A TARDIS at the end of time.
Who are you?
Who are you?
Big Finish. For the love of stories.
The Doctor spent lifetimes saving worlds. But there comes a time when the magic stops working.
The Artist at the End of Time by James Goss. This was directed by Ken Bentley. The music was by Howard Carter, as was the sound design. Its associate producer, I might mention, is Georgia Tennant. So whenever Georgia Tennant's in one of her shows, she's always acts as an associate producer. I'm not quite sure what changes. Senior producer for the whole range is John Ainsworth. It was recorded on the 26th of July and the 19th and the 20th of September, 2022. So this was actually one of the most recent ones to be recorded on a year ago. And it's strange it's got 3 different days for recording. Most of them only have the one recording day. So I'm guessing that none of the cast could actually get together for this. But then they seem to be, so I don't quite understand how the recording happened. We're going to ask someone that question. It stars Peter Davis as the Doctor, Georgia Tennant as Jenny, Colin Baker as the Curator, and also the Sixth Doctor. And aside from that, there's appearances by Michael Troughton, Tim Treloar, and Stephen Noonan, and a couple of other parts just played by John Telfer and Abby Harris. But it really is about the Doctor and the Curator, and with Jenny as well.
Yeah, Philip, I think this one was specifically written to get Georgia Tennant and Peter Davison together in the same story, because that just would be fun to have the real life Doctor and daughter playing the fictional Doctor and daughter. Yeah,
and James Goss throws in some few fun lines with that relationship there.
Absolutely, and that's what this series does. It is not the greatest story in the world, but none of the anniversary stories ever are. I should mention too that the first 3 Doctors regularly appear in they appear in most of the episodes in cameos at the start or the end. Actually, Stephen Noonan has a larger role towards the end in one of them. But yeah,
none of them are going to get a whole CD to themselves. So
that's right.
They do use those 3 a lot because none of them are going to have a whole story. Like each of the main television Doctors gets their own story.
Yeah, which is a bit of a shame. But then it would have been instead of a 7-part epic, it would have been a 10-part epic, and that would have been 10 months long. It would have been dragging it on a bit, I guess. But as far as the story goes, it's an interesting story. It's got a typical James Goss kind of worldview or universe view to it, with a James Goss style twist at the end. But lots of use of the curator as well, which is interesting because we've got Colin Baker featured here as the curator, which is a different role to the Doctor. He's a bit more, well,
Very
obviously
different.
he's older. He acts the physical age that Colin Baker is now, rather than the younger or the more youthful Sixth Doctor. But yeah, it was good to get those two together, and these stories, these combinations allow those lines to come out. So you have anniversary throwbacks to, to past stories, or in jokes, lots of in jokes, things like that. So these stories are typically for fans. They're not for casual listeners. So you've got to know your Doctor Who stuff to sort of know all the lines, and you could probably go back and hear stuff that you hadn't heard the previous listen as well.
Yep. I'd recommend, if you enjoy this story, go and listen to Bernie Summerfield in the Extinction event. There's a story there which is about Benny, and it's actually lots of similarities. There's auctions happening of items that are the last items of certain planets before they've been destroyed. So an extinction event is something that makes a planet extinct, and this auction house selling different goods, and one person turns up trying to murder people. He's actually a survivor of one of these extinction events, trying to get back a piece of property. So yeah, there's some strong similarities between those two stories and this one, but it's fascinating in terms of trying to work out what's going on, that why everywhere the curator goes, suddenly the planet's wiped out. And there's some lovely scenes on Orion. I think the stuff on Orion is probably the stuff that warmed my heart the most, because it felt like the Five Doctors. And once again, that's that anniversary nod to the Five Doctors.
You can totally visualize it. Yeah.
Exactly. And just similar lines, and the iron storms, and it's just beautifully done. So yeah, James Goss has written a lovely story.
Also interesting that the events of the Giggle could sort of show us the origin of the curator as well. Is the 14th Doctor going to go off and be the curator? Who knows? There's a theory for you.
A different curator. Well, yeah, if you listen to the commentary by Russell T Davis, he's actually saying that every Doctor continues on and gets old. And so it makes a lot more sense of the old Tom Baker and the old Colin Baker, and etc. If that is true, but it's not been on screen yet, so it doesn't have to be canon yet.
Very good. Okay. Well, let's move on to the next story in the series, Story 3, which is a Seventh Doctor adventure along with Terry Malloy as Davros, called A Genius for War. Here's the blurb. In the midst of the Time War, the Time Lords have received a communication from Falcus, the prison moon of Skaro. Its sole inmate, Davros, wishes to make them an offer. He will help them win the Time War, but only if the Doctor comes to his rescue.
From Big Finish Productions, Doctor Who, Once and Future, A Genius for War.
This is Davros, calling Gallifrey. Repeat, this is Davros, calling Gallifrey.
The General. I have been appointed to conduct your briefing.
I was in the middle of something, you know. But no, pluck me out of time, drag me halfway across the universe without so much as a by your leave.
We wouldn't use the time scoop to bring you here unless your presence was absolutely unavoidable.
The Dalek Emperor has accused me of treason.
I trust Davros about as far as I could throw him.
Instead, I have been incarcerated on Falcus, the first moon of Skaro.
He must be desperate.
Liberate me from captivity, and I will help you defeat the Daleks.
You think it's a trap?
I wish to be rescued by the Time Lord known as the Doctor.
So, now I know why I'm here. To save Davros. Well, let's get going, shall we?
Dalek units to disembark and secure Falcus Moon.
The Matrix has predicted the Time War can only end with mutual extinction. You can appreciate that we are eager to avoid that outcome.
The Matrix can be wrong.
The Matrix predicted the war.
The TARDIS passed through a temporal breach. I offer you the means to end the Time War. I offer you victory.
Big Finish, for the love of stories.
Your appearance corresponds with the Time Lord known as the Doctor. You are the enemy of the Daleks!
It's the first line on my CV. Current employment. The oncoming storm.
A Genius for War by Jonathan Morris. Directed by Helen Goldwyn. And music by Howard Carter and sound design by Howard Carter as well. It was recorded on the 30th of September 2022, released July 2023. So once again, this is quite a recent one. Stars Sylvester McCoy as the Doctor, Ken Bones as the General, Nicholas Briggs as the Daleks, and Beth Chalmers as Veclan. There's also, most importantly, Terry Malloy as Davros. Also cameo appearances by the first, the second, and the third Doctors.
Very good. So when did you say this was recorded?
So this was recorded 30th of September 2022. So last year in September. I think this might be the last. I didn't meant to check the order. I think this was the last one recorded.
Right. Okay. No, I actually wrote notes on this one, believe it or not. I actually sat down and wrote some notes, but it also happens to be my favorite one out of all 7. I just love this one because I always loved Terry Malloy as Davros, and I have enjoyed Ken Bones as General in everything I hear. I think his voice is amazing. So at the opening of this, I'll go through my notes as quickly as I can. In the opening of the story, there's a musical sympathy to Trial of a Time Lord. So you get the same opening style music that Howard Carter does. And we find that the space station has a name, the Trial of a Time Lord space station. It's called Space Station Zenobia, which is really interesting. And it's been decommissioned but whipped sideways in time into the Time War so they can use it for this and other stories, I guess. There's a desperation that I've never been a huge fan of the Time War stuff. I find it a little bit complicated and confusing, but I thought it was interesting that Veclan and the General were willing to do anything to stop the Time War, and I guess there's a lot more of that in the Time War stories, which I have heard most of them.
And Gallifrey War Room at the moment.
War Room.
Veclan and the General are playing major roles in Gallifrey the War Room.
Yeah. So because it's set on the moon of Skaro, there's a few little interesting things there where there's Khaleds on there. And I'm thinking, where did these Khaleds come from? We find out that the Khaleds are actually clones that Davros has recreated. And there's musical stings there. So the musical stings relating to the Trial of a Time Lord scenes, but Howard Carter's also emulated some of the Genesis of the Daleks music stings as well. I don't know if you picked up on that, Philip.
Yeah.
Did you pick up on that while you're listening to that?
Yeah.
So I thought that was really, really good. Because I was listening to this with my headphones, there's one scene, I think it's with the Doctor and Davros just talking, and Davros is moving around the room, and his voice is moving around your head. It's an incredible sound design. So it really, really impressed me. And particularly Davros in the TARDIS control room too. I thought that was really well realized in sound as well. So we've got references to the hybrid. So people who like that particular era of new series, the hybrid's in there too. I was a bit sad that space station was destroyed. Lots of stuff happened there that was not always good, but it was nice while it lasted. Where are we? Oh yeah, and towards the end we've got the final scenes from Genesis of the Daleks emulated there as well, with Terry Malloy saying some of the same lines. It just reminds us, diehard fans who voted Genesis of the Daleks #1, which wasn't me, but I still know the story very well. So we also go to the Lake of Mutations as well, And is this the first time we get a reference to the diamond in the stars? I think in this story, which comes out much more later on. So, yeah, I could listen to Beth Chalmers and Ken Bones all day long. I love this one.
I think this is probably the most standalone of all the stories, because I mean, it's sort of the Doctor's taken out of time to deal with the situation. It's all adventure. It's all action packed. I think I mentioned I missed this on the way through the first time. I downloaded and just didn't listen to it, and so when I went back to have a re-listen to do this, it was brand new, and so I can't tell whether it's my favorite or not, because it was special because I hadn't heard it before, and it was like a discovery, like a lost story returned. So I don't know how I missed the first time, but then once I was into it, it was just so loud, exciting, action-packed. Davros is just fantastic. Yeah, it was amazing. But I don't know if it's because I missed it the first time through. But in terms of it's up there as one of the best stories, and this is the one I want to go back and listen to again.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, shall we move on to the next?
Indeed.
The next one is called Two's Company. Back on Earth, the Doctor finds a clue in the search for the origins of the degeneration weapon. In his sixth body, he meets Jackie Tyler and Lady Christina D'Souza, thrown together by fate or something more, in pursuit of a powerful item of jewellery. Meanwhile, a Time Lord renegade has duped Harry Sullivan into helping him stop the Doctor's travels before they begin, and all are set on a collision course.
From Big Finish Productions, Doctor Who, Once and Future, Two's Company.
Degenerating?
I'm fluctuating between incarnations in no discernible order.
Blimey, size of this place, like a mansion.
That sound. You must recognise it.
Harry, who do you answer to?
To you, Doctor. A future you.
I'm looking for Lady Christina D'Souza.
Stay right where you are and put your hands on your head.
Oh, behave. Is your mum in?
The place is booby-trapped. Excellent. I love a challenge.
Ah, you don't improve with age, Sullivan.
Doctor.
What is that?
Motorbike. Helmet?
No.
Sorry about your curls, Goldilocks.
A sidecar?
You're having a giraffe.
A degenerative weapon, I wonder.
Big Finish, for the love of stories.
Two's Company by Lisa McMullen. Director was Helen Goldwyn for this one. And once again, music and sound design by Howard Carter. Matt Fitton being the script editor. This one stars Colin Baker. Tim Trelaw is the third Doctor and has some sizable stuff to do as well, but it's mainly Colin Baker's story as the Doctor this time. Also starring Camilla Kaduri as Jackie Tyler and Michelle Ryan as Lady Christina, and as mentioned, Christopher Naylor playing Harry Sullivan. And the Renegade is played by Michael Maloney. Of course, the Renegade is just so we don't give away the plot of who the Renegade really is, because it's someone we know. What do you think of this one, Dwayne?
Loved it, because that casting didn't spoil it for me on the first listen, but I'm going to spoil it for you now. And it's in the title, Two's Company. And as the story was progressing, I'm going, of course, it's an early adventure for who we originally were introduced to as the 11, the Time Lord who, when he regenerates, retains the personalities of the previous. So he's like a Time Lord with multiple personality disorder. And sometimes these incarnations assert themselves, but this is the second incarnation. So he's only got one other incarnation inside throughout this. But what a pairing. I loved the pairing of Camille Kaduri and Lady Christina. They were so funny. If you can get through the scene where they are just cracking up, I don't know what they're saying, but they're just laughing, and it just seems to go on, and it's just perfect. If you like Jackie Tyler, then this is the one for you.
I was thinking all the way through that Jackie and Lady Christina, what an amazing box set that would be, because you have two characters and actresses from very different worlds who talk so differently, and yet they just like each other and respect each other. And the two of them were just giving the poor Doctor hell, which was part of the joy of it all in terms of, I mean, Colin Baker's he needed, you needed it to be a big Doctor to deal with those two characters because they're both so big and so large. And once again, it's that beautiful mix of classic Doctor Who with new Doctor Who with Big Finish thrown together. Christopher Naylor's Harry Sullivan, beautifully, competently played. He just
I thought this was one of his best performances as Harry,
I was going to say, I think has a real charm in this. I'm not sure. Did I mention the fact this was recorded this was recorded April 2021. They're not released till August 2023. So this is another fairly early, really early recorded one. But yeah, just everyone just played so well together. And yeah, Michael Maloney as the two just plays him really, really well. In some way, it's a pretty normal plot of, the two discovers his future, the Doctor's going to be a problem, and so decides, well, I'll kill him now. And you know it's never going to work. But the other thing that it puts in play is the fact of, and it's a bit of a red herring, that the two hears about the degenerate weapon for the first time. And so immediately going, oh, hang on a second. If the two's heard about this, then it must be, maybe it's a future one of the two that's going to cause all the problems. And so there's all these things being put in along the way. So you go, oh, I wonder if that's what's going on here. But to me, the standout here is just the performances. Colin Baker, Camille Kaduri, Michelle Ryan, those three together are just spectacular.
Yeah. So bit of a heist story, of course, if you got Lady Christina, but yeah, you're right. This combination was just really, really enjoyable, even though it wasn't overly plot heavy. Just the way they spar off each other was just sensational, and the twist that did get me, that the two was the two. I really enjoyed that too.
Mm.
Okay. Oh, one thing I should mention is that I bought the special editions, and with those you get extended extras. That's the main benefit of getting the extended. And I didn't have the issues. People were seeming to have issues with the packaging, but because I've got download only, that obviously didn't affect me. But I don't know about you, Philip.
There were ugly covers. Can I just say the
special edition ones?
Special edition covers were just awful. Well,
because I've got to say, I like the standard edition ones better.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. The standard edition covers were beautiful, and they were bright with color and all the characters, as opposed to these dull drub, back-to-back heads and faces. Oh, I mean, the diamond logo. It's just,
I just wish on the app I had the option to switch the cover to the standard edition because it's much nicer.
It is much nicer. Well, I often then download them onto my Apple Music, and I change the covers in that. So my Apple Music is showing the right covers, even though I got the standard, even though I got the special edition.
Yeah, but definitely worth getting the special edition for the standard extras. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Okay, let's move on to the next story. Story number 5. This one's called The Martian Invasion of Planetoid 50. The First Doctor arrives in Victorian London amid a Martian invasion, but he discovers all is not what it seems when Missy appears. Soon, the Doctor is propelled into a future incarnation, the 10th, but he's not alone in battling Missy and her Martian invaders. The Paternoster gang, Madame Vastra, Jenny Flint and Strax are also here to assist. But can they offer the Doctor any help in solving his own degeneration mystery?
My scanner indicates that you may have been the Doctor at some point, or that you may be in the future.
That's because I'm stuck in a mid-degenerative state. Probably.
From Big Finish Productions, Doctor Who, Once and Future, The Martian Invasion of Planetoid 50.
I think I must be a future face.
Mistress, the alarm has been triggered.
Really? Has it really?
No. I simply will not accept it. Something is very wrong.
Now, listen, I have some questions. I want to see if your answers are any different to Jessamine's. Where are we and when are we?
London, Earth, Victorian era.
But I always wanted a pet lizard. Oh, look. You've not touched your food.
Sorry, have we met? I've a head like Swiss cheese.
Oh. Well, look at you. I was hoping for one of the classics.
Time itself, along with our memories, appears out of joint.
It's them! Doctor, it's the Martians!
That thing's using its heat ray. Everyone out before it burns this place to the ground! Come on!
They're coming.
Lots of them.
Because only one Time Lord would ever do something so mind-bogglingly, time-consumingly ridiculous.
Oh, you say such pretty things.
Big Finish, for the love of stories.
Oh, my dear Doctor, you have been naive.
The Invasion of Planetoid 50 by Jonathan Barnes. This one's directed back to Ken Bentley again. He and Helen Goldman are sharing director's duties backwards and forwards. Music and sound design by Howard Carter. And script editor was Matt Fitton. Recorded, this is the earliest one, recorded on the 10th of October 2020, released in September 2023. So this is by far the first recorded, and it's recorded during lockdown while David Tennant was hugely available. So during that huge period of time when they were just pumping out story after story for David Tennant, they decided to get this one in there as well. So David Tennant played the 10th Doctor, Michelle Gomez is Missy. It's got the Paternoster gang with Nerve McIntosh as Amanda Bastra, Dan Stark as Drax, and Caitlin Stewart as Jenny Flatt. And it also has Stephen Noonan, Tim Trelaw as the first and the third Doctor, and Hannah Genesisius. I don't know if I pronounced that probably. Genesis? Yeah, I think I have. As To See Me More. So, as I said, 10th Doctor, Amanda Bastra, Jenny Strax, and Missy.
So this is the story that Stephen Noonan's first Doctor gets quite a sizable portion of the story at the opening, maybe 10 or 15 minutes. He's in the first bit of it before he settles on the 10th Doctor. And finally, the degeneration effect is propelling the incarnations forward rather than backwards. So apart from the first Doctor and a bit of a cameo from Tim Trelaw at the end, we've got no combinations of any classic series elements here in this Doctor. We've only got the 10th Doctor and Missy and the Paternoster gang. With Missy and the Paternoster gang being almost contemporaries of the new series and the 10th Doctor not far behind. What do you think of this combination?
It was interesting, the 10th Doctor with Missy, because Missy is very much designed for Peter Capaldi's Doctor. The Masters and Doctors go together, and so John Sims was the Master for David Tennant. So it's interesting seeing Missy with David Tennant, but once again, even Missy's not quite normal either, because we work out that Missy's actually also been hit.
She's suffering with the degeneration too. But
that's right.
Was it established which Master it was that she was at the time? It was a past Master, wasn't it? Could have even been Ainley. So she was dropping Ainley lines here and there. So
yes,
could have been that one. Don't know.
Yeah,
even though Ainley wasn't technically a Time Lord, but
no, I would need to double think. I can't remember whether we heard or not. But it's, once again, it was Michelle had also been hit by the Missy had also been hit by the weapon, but yes, it was interesting seeing them. I mean, Michelle Gomez is just such an amazing actress and just does such awful things. And so, Caitlin Stewart's been the first. Actually, it threw me a bit because she was under mind control for the first half, and so she was therefore speaking in a really flat voice. I really struggled to realize it was Jenny, because she wasn't sounding like Jenny because she'd lost her accent with the mind control. But aside from that, there are beautiful moments. Dan Starkey does another amazing job. It's a good listen. It's a fun little story. And then just this, the whole question of this one was Missy hit as well. All these questions being raised. But the whole premise of the War of the Worlds and what Missy's up to is hilarious in a bizarre way. So it is the War of the Worlds, because there's the tripods, there's alien invasion, but there's little twists along the way too, and then you start working out, oh, Missy, what are you up to? But it goes very bizarre. Jonathan Barnes has really written a very unique left of field story with this one.
But once again, it's the dialogue that everyone fires off each other. You wouldn't even know that Michelle Gomez was a continent away doing her recording at the time. It just sounds like she's there in the room. So she, as you said, I was going to say that too. She's such an amazing actor, and what a performance as Missy.
Yeah.
But I don't know if I was suffering when I re-listened. I might have been suffering a little bit for some David Tennant burnout. I don't know. But it was like, oh, David Tennant again. Sorry.
That's okay.
All right, shall we move on to the next one?
Let's.
Okay, story 6. In Once and Future, Time Lord Immemorial. Slipping between bodies, the Ninth Doctor finds his TARDIS caught between universes as the cosmos starts to break down. A doctor from another reality arrives, and they join forces with Liv Chanka and the Lumiat to find the cause. Someone has desecrated the mythical hall of the Time Lord Immemorial, where the sands of time from the multiverse are held, and those sands are running out.
Once upon a Gallifrey.
From Big Finish Productions, Doctor Who, Once and Future, Time Lord Immemorial.
What have you done to my console room?
This is my console room. You're trespassing. You're from an alternate universe. Or rather, you are.
We were friends a long time ago. I've changed a lot since then.
What was that?
Degeneration.
You said degenerating is like a sort of reverse regeneration.
Sand. It's pouring through the walls.
Silicants.
They look like an army.
The sands of time are running out.
And they're starting to march.
Time itself is unraveling.
They're gaining on us.
Talk about quicksand.
Right, here goes.
Wait for me.
Oh my, it can't be.
It is. It's the Hall of the Time Lord Immemorial.
The Doctor. Always the Doctor.
Big Finish, for the love of stories.
I'm the Lumiat. Would you mind terribly giving me a hand to save the multiverse?
Time Lord Immemorial by Lisa McMullen. As usual, same old crew have done most of this. I will mention different director again. Well, back to Helen Goldwyn, and written by Lisa McMullen. I'm not sure I mentioned that before. This one's been recorded on the 18th of November 2021, released October 2023. This one actually starred Christopher Eccleston as the Doctor, David Warner as the Doctor from the other alternative universe, who we know through the Bernie Summerfield stories, Gina McKee as the Lumiad, Robert Powell as the Time Lord Immemorial, and as the companion, Nicola Walker as Liv Chanka. So it's an interesting mix of people.
Wow. Now, when I saw the cover for this, when I saw it's a multi-doctor story like Eccleston said he would never do, it's kind of a little bit different to a multi-doctor story, but you know what I mean.
We kind of got a multi-doctor story in the second one with Peter Davison and Colin Baker.
And the curator, yeah.
So that was kind of a multi-doctor story, and then this is another
just like
kind
this one.
Well, I think this one's probably actually more of a multi-doctor story than that one, because the curator's not really clear. Whereas
they're both in on the adventure together.
These are two established doctors who are together the whole time as doctors.
And of course, David Warner's Doctor is very established in Big Finish, as is the character of Liv Chanka, Nicola Walker, and the Lumiat, who I think the Lumiat may have appeared in Doom Coalition for the first time. Is that right?
Yes, I believe so, yes.
Yeah, so the Lumiat is a future good incarnation of the Master, so it's an interesting combination here. And when I saw Robert Powell, I thought, wow, this is fantastic. He's never been in Big Finish, and Robert Powell's such a huge name. I thought, of course, this is going to be great. But I've got to say, Philip, out of all 7 of these, this one is the most disappointing to me. I found the story really difficult to follow, difficult to understand. Of course, the chemistry's there, and with the dialogue, they're sparring off each other. But I found the story so incomprehensible, and I felt that Robert Powell in particular was wasted as the Time Lord Immemorial. David Warner, I don't know if it was the last thing he recorded. I don't think it was the last thing he recorded, but he wasn't sounding overly well either, which is not his fault, obviously. But Robert Powell, I think that was my biggest disappointment, that he didn't have a bigger role. His voice was treated, so you didn't get to hear his voice properly throughout. So, but I mean, I thought about it and I thought, yeah, this is also a lockdown story as well. So I think they're remotely recording. So I was forgiving it on certain points for that, but I found it just really incomprehensible, this one, and I don't think it really did anything to serve the plot of overall.
Well, I'm not sure much of them do much to serve the plot, to be perfectly honest, overall. I think the number of plot devices that link them all together is very slim. It's the bad wolf of linking materials. I actually really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed the pairings. I mean, Christopher Eccleston and David Warner, when they were together, were superb, and I loved how they bounced off each other. I think when
I did too. It's just the story that got me, I think, more than anything.
Okay, they were just. I don't think the story bothered me in terms of, because it was all about this. I want to say mystical sand. That might be the wrong word, but it's what powers the weapon, and would help bring stability to the Doctor. And someone had been there and stolen this mystical sand to make the weapon, and so it was a bit of a whodunit in terms of what's going on there. Plus, in terms of it's sort of fantasy, it's sort of mind robberish sort of world, or different spaces you're going into, which aren't reality, and so it's coming to terms with the where you are. I really didn't mind it, and as I said, to me, the way they play with each other is really powerful. Gina McKee, I know that the Lumiere has appeared elsewhere. I'd kind of forgotten who she was, and I was trying to put in. It took me a while to place. Well, I kind of understood who she was in the story, but then for the life of me, I couldn't remember what she'd been in beforehand or what she'd done beforehand. It's actually quite a chilling scene towards the end, because you realise that this is the same master as Missy was, which is one that's been hit by the weapon, and so keeps degenerating. So the Lumiad wasn't the proper Lumiad; it was a forward projection of the master. And towards the end, the Lumiad is losing her. She's about to degenerate again, and it's her pain of, I don't want to go back to being that awful man, or that's the awful man. Yeah. And so and just her trying to warn people around her to get away, because she knows all their lives will be in danger once she changes. So there were some really special moments. I mean, I loved the friend, the friend, the enemy, the witness. There's a fourth thing too, that the four of them had to do different things, and just the fact that I just thought Livchenko really assumed she was the friend, and being told by the master, well, no, you're not the friend, actually. I'm the friend and I'm the enemy. I'm those two. You're the witness. Yeah. And just poor Livchenko finding out she's just a witness. It was a bit interesting. So it was very different in style to the others, which is why I think I liked it, because it was out there. It was more fantasy. It was a bit bizarre. Yeah, I liked it.
And if we could get Robert Powell back again, that'd be awesome.
Oh, I know. I do know what you're saying. Like, I must admit, I hadn't realized, I hadn't clicked who he was until I was actually doing my notes for this episode, and went, Robert Powell. I thought, Robert Powell, I know that name. He's famous. I actually Googled him and went, oh, it is that Robert Powell. Like, it really threw me that someone who is so well known, has done so much stuff, was really a very minor role. But anyhow, it was, as you said, it was during the pandemic and there wasn't much work going, and he was probably happy for the money. We know Christopher Eccleston was. That's why he came back, for the money.
Yep. All right, let's move on to the last story in Once and Future for this year, at any rate. It's called The Union. The Doctor responds to a distress call from his granddaughter Susan, taking him to the Diamond Array, a huge multi-dimensional space station. Once there, his instability increases as the 4th and 8th Doctors discover the Array's terrible purpose. Meanwhile, River Song has made a deadly alliance to try to save her husband, and the truth about the Doctor's degeneration will finally be revealed.
Degeneration, an enforced mystery tour through all of my lives.
From Big Finish Productions, Doctor Who, Once and Future, The Union.
Fighting it so long, I can't hold things together anymore.
It's happened again, hasn't it?
Oh, this is a pretty pickle.
Those forays into my future disrupting my entire existence.
Intolerable. Utterly intolerable.
Miss Song, it's you.
Professor, River Song.
My entire self adrift on my time stream. I've been better.
An old, reliable...
Moving into position.
Ah, teeth and curls. This should be fun.
Target identified.
Grandfather, what are you doing here?
No, it can't be.
I will set this universe in stone.
You kill us all.
Basically, we're the two people in the universe best placed to help the Doctor.
And are you going to kill me?
I could watch you suffer all eternity long. And I will.
Big Finish. For the love of stories.
Ooh, jammy dodger. Here, bit dusty, but you can pick off the fluff.
The Union by Matt Fitton. Directed by Ken Bentley. Script editor for this one was Robert Valentine. Of course, up until now, at this time, Matt Fitton had done all the script editing, but he couldn't script edit his own, and so he brought his friend Robert Valentine in. And as always, Howard Carter doing both the sound design and music. A senior producer was John Ainsworth. Covers by Lee Johnson. Executive producers Jason Haig-Ellery and Nicholas Briggs, as per all the others. This one was recorded on the 19th of November 2021, released October 2023. Starring Paul McGann and Tom Baker as the two main Doctors, but also Carol Ann Ford as Susan, Alex Kingston as River Song, and Maureen O'Brien playing an unusual role playing the Union, not playing Vicky. And of course, every other Doctor you can imagine was in it. Colin Baker, Jonathan Carley playing the War Doctor, Peter Davison, Jacob Dudman doing the 11th and the 12th Doctor, Sylvester McCoy, Stephen Noonan, David Tennant, Tim Law, and Michael Troughton. And there's also other performances by Michael Maloney and Rufus Howard as the monk. Big cast for this one.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you think it all paid off successfully for you?
No.
Really? Tell me more.
No, I okay. Once again, I did enjoy this. I did enjoy the Union and the character by Maureen O'Brien. Pretty.
Sure, the performance was outstanding, wasn't it?
The performance was outstanding. Are we spoiling who the Union is?
Yeah, why not?
So once again, the Union is a future 11, 12, 13, whatever. The Union is all that has been managing to capture all of the characteristics of the 12, maybe more, and form one in the Union. And so Michael Maloney is actually also in it as the two, but basically is a bit of a slave now, been made into a slave, but gets a bit of freedom later on. So you have the two and you have the Union. And the Union has been trying to destroy the Doctor still. Rufus Hound appears against the monk, now understanding what the first episode was all about, is that there's a link there.
That's what ties it back into the first.
That's what ties it back
story.
into the first story and the link. Paul McGann and Tom Baker fairly equal time. I guess it's a bit more of a Paul McGann story, but it's appropriate that you've got the original, the oldest and the youngest of the sort of Big Finish Doctors. Because Tom Baker's now been around it took a long time to get him, but both those Doctors took a while. It was hard to get both of them, but they're such stalwarts of Big Finish now. I thought it was appropriate to have those two as bookending.
Yeah,
loved to have Carol Ann Ford back because she's not young anymore, but she did a great performance as the Doctor's granddaughter, and it was appropriate that River Song was here. She kind of belonged. And got to meet a lot of the other Doctors, which is great because you want River to have met all the Doctors along the way, and so she's there. There's a lot of extended stuff with all the Doctors. I guess there's still cameos, but there's an important plot device happening in terms of why we have to meet them and what they're going through and experiencing. It is a good wrap up, I guess. Well, why did I say no? I'm never sure. I guess the stakes were never that high. I guess it is the Doctor's life and the Doctor's degenerating, but it feels like the stakes weren't quite big enough for 6 or 7 stories. How many was it? 6 or 7 already?
7.
7 here. And I've got no idea why they're holding one back for 12 months and what on earth's going to happen in 12 months' time. That's a very interesting decision. Did I enjoy them more? Yes, I enjoyed them more. I think I would have preferred them to all come out as one box set. I really did struggle one a month in terms of remembering what happened. And so when I actually listened to all of them into 1 week, I enjoyed them a lot more that way. But what did you think? Were you happy with the payoff?
I was, and I was a bit like you. I'm a bit more of a fan of the month to month, but with so much that we were trying to do and listen to over the time, I was sort of getting swamped with everything else and forgetting the details of the previous stories, or maybe not even listening to them or concentrating on them enough as much as I should have. I did find myself thinking, okay, if this is, you know, the Union is the ultimate character that we were, is the 2 and the 11, the 9, the 12. We've met all those ones. I was thinking, well, if we've got this character, why don't we have the actor who played the original one, Mark Bonner? I felt it missed him. So we have had a lot of him in recent unit box sets. So maybe, they felt that that's enough of Mark Bonner, but I thought he was pretty integral to the plot, I thought, as the original one that we were introduced to as Big Finish fans. And if it's an anniversary story bringing together all these different elements, I thought that he would have been a integral part of that. Did you feel that he was missing at all, or were you okay with him not being there?
I think had he been there, he may have become too dominant for the 11. Crowded, because we've had the 11, we've had the 12, and the 6 as well. And it was interesting in terms of why it was the origin story for the 11, which is the origin story is that the 11 got hit by his own weapon, and therefore split his personalities. So it was an interesting. It was good to have this origin story for the 11. I'm concerned that if you'd had the 11 as well, it would have detracted too much from the Doctor. And the celebration is supposed to be the Doctor's anniversary. And you already had the 2, and you had the Union, and you had the shadow of the 11, the 12, the 6 there anyhow. So I didn't mind the 11 wasn't there.
I loved Carol Ann Ford's performance. She was this older woman, but she still had those, grandfather inflections in her voice like she did back in those early days. And that was really nice to hear. It was nice to get some scenes between Stephen Noonan and her, where he said to her, no, it was the 8th Doctor that said he was proud, but I think he was quoting something from Dalek Invasion of Earth.
You went forward in all your beliefs and proved to me, not to be mistaken in mine. So
it was something like that. Yeah,
that was
I thought that was really nice. And that's what you want in an anniversary. You want those references that go back and those nostalgic moments to come out. And so for me, I loved Maureen O'Brien. I thought she was outstanding, but I really loved Carol Ann Ford in this one. And I think to me that was the standout for me.
Yeah. Well, I think once again they were able to take you back to the very beginning with Carol Ann Ford, and with Jacob Dubman, taking you to the 12th Doctor. You really had the entire range of all the Doctors in.
How'd you enjoy his voices?
I think his 11th is great. I think his 12th is pushing
Suspend your disbelief a bit?
Yeah, I wasn't able to. So, I don't think the 12th was strong enough.
The lines were good.
The lines were good. Yeah, the script was great. And I did, if I just tried to cut out the fact that I thought, he was just, I've come to really appreciate Tim Delore and Stephen Noonan and Michael Troughton because they've captured the heart of their Doctors. And I do think Jake has captured the heart of Matt Smith. I think Peter Capaldi is just a bit old for Jacob to play. I think Jacob is becoming an extraordinary actor. I think he's got an amazing career ahead of him and he's doing some pretty, good stuff. But the reality is he's still a very young man, and a very young man playing an established actor and probably one of the best actors to have ever played the Doctor is Peter Capaldi. I think there's just too much nuance that he wasn't able to get. So with Matt Smith, he's played Matt a lot more, but he's able to get the energy, the boundness, and the excitement because Matt's young, like he's young, but the gravitas and the depth that Peter Capaldi is, I just don't think he was able to quite get that heart. Is that too hard?
No, I think that's a fair assessment, and he might even agree with you. But I've got to say, I do have the ability to, well, not that it's ability, I do find myself suspending my disbelief and just going along with the. Yeah, I find myself going along with his 12th Doctor a lot easier than many people have expressed that I've seen. So yeah, I'm a bit more forgiving, I think, of that than you are.
I mean, no hate for me. I'm not the
no, I
hate.
don't.
It's just that I thought, oh no, I don't think he's quite captured it.
Yeah. So overall, I think the concept was a good one. Started a long time ago, back in lockdown. Started even Jason Haig-Ellery, when we were talking to him a couple of years ago on the podcast, was dropping hints that this was all in the works. So now we have the culmination of it. I'm quite satisfied with it. I enjoy what it was trying to do. I enjoyed the ride, and it's something I would definitely revisit.
Yeah, it's a lovely anniversary. I mean, people have very definite views about what is anniversary, what's not anniversary. We've sort of been hearing a lot of that for the last 3 weeks. I think it's a lovely anniversary story. I think it's a big finish celebration of Doctor Who because of just the way they've keyed into. Yes, they have picked up on all their ranges. Of course they have, and why wouldn't they? They've still got to market what else they do. And I hope that a few people do pick up the Lady Christina sets or the Rose sets with Camilla Coduri or other things.
Oh, Christina in particular are fabulous. I love those.
Yeah, I love those too. And I'm not sure how well they sell, but both those two box sets are lovely. I think the Jenny box set is great too. So it's a shame there's a bit more Jenny. But so I don't blame Big Finish for wanting to showcase some of their other ranges. I guess I would have loved to have had more classic Doctor Who companions in it as well. I mean, it's lovely that Maureen O'Brien got to play a role, which was good. I'm trying to think of anyone else. I think she's the only ex-companion who got a different role. And she played it so well. But I mean, I would have loved Peter Purves and Fraser Hines and Wendy Padbury, and it would have been nice to find a way to have put them all in. But it would have got too cluttered, and I do understand that. But you kind of feel that when you've got 7 discs, you should have a lot of space to do stuff. But they were trying to make their individual stories. So I understand what's going on. Maybe 16 half-an-hour parts where each half-an-hour part was a companion, and I don't know. Who knows? We'll see what they do for the 70th, because I know that they're already planning it.
Yes. I was going to say we'll get together in 10 years and talk about the 70th and see how that turns out. We'll be heading towards 70 ourselves.
I was going to say that's a depressing thought.
There you go. All right. Well, Philip, it's been a wonderful year. I think it's time we had a bit of a break now. What do you think?
Yeah. We might put out maybe we could put out 1 or 2 other bits and pieces from some of the other events. But yeah, I think it has been a lovely year, and it was. Thank you for doing that reflection in the rabbit hole. Because to be perfectly honest, if you asked me who we'd spoken to this year, I would have no idea without looking it up. And just what an amazing year, and how lucky are we to have such amazing audios, entertainment, and people who are stupid enough to come and talk to us.
Very good.
And just super thankful for the guests that we had on. But I was going to say too, super thankful too for the audience. Thank you, from all over the world. More than half of you in the UK, but America, Canada, Germany, New Zealand, Australia. There's another country I saw have a bit of representation too, which I thought that's a bit strange recently. But yeah, it's great to have all of you listening to us or watching us. I'm very thankful for that, and hope you enjoy some of what we do.
Very good. All right, we'll be back for a bonus episode in about 10 days' time won't we? When we're
We
talking
will.
about Shooty Cat was first episode, so we'll definitely do that because
Have you listened to the song?
Yes, I have.
Did you enjoy it?
Not really.
It was hilarious. It's so good.
Very dark. Very dark.
It made me laugh and laugh. Did you watch the video as well?
Yeah, I did.
Okay. It made me laugh and laugh.
I'm always curious as to what's going to happen. So I'll be tuning in for sure, and I'll give my thoughts to you in a couple of weeks without any notice. So that should be fun.
Yeah, and all those people who are too miserable to go on, you've got your happy ending. 14th Doctor, he's retired. You can stop now. You don't have to keep whinging on. Good stuff. Well, listen, it's been great, right, as always, Dwayne.
All right. Until next time, we'll catch you all later.
Bye, everyone.
This has been the Sirens of Audio episode 183, Once and Future, with your hosts Philip Edney and Dwayne Bunny. Original theme music composed by Joe Kramer. More about us from sirensofaudio.com. Comment below to let us know what you thought of the episode, or contact us via email at sirensofaudio@gmail.com or via any one of our socials. The handle is @AudioSirens. We're going to take a few weeks off now from regular episodes, but in the meantime, we may drop a few bonus ones here and there. But until next year, thanks for listening, audiophiles. We'll hear you next time.